First Chronicles 26, the Gatekeepers. These are the groups of the gatekeepers for the Korah family. There was Meshelemiah, son of Kor. Kor was from the family of Asaph. Meshelemiah had sons. Zechariah was the oldest son. Jediel was the second son. Zebediah was the third son. Jathniel was the fourth son. Elam was the fifth son. Jehohanan was the sixth son. And Elihoenai was the seventh son. Obed-Edom had sons. His oldest son was Shemaiah. Jehozabad was his second son. Joah was his third son. Sakar was his fourth son. Nathanael was his fifth son. Amiel was his sixth son. Issachar his seventh son. And Pulethai his eighth son. God really blessed Obed-Edom. Obed-Edom's son was Shemaiah. Shemaiah also had sons. His sons were leaders in their father's family because they were brave soldiers. Shemaiah's sons were Othni, Raphael, Obed, Elzabad, Elihu, and Semachiah. Elzabad's relatives were skilled workers. All these men were Obed-Edom's descendants. These men and their sons and relatives were powerful men. They were good guards. Obed-Edom had 62 descendants. Meshelemiah had sons and relatives who were powerful men. In all, there were 18 sons and relatives. These are the gatekeepers for the Merari family. Hosa, son of Merari, chose his son Shimri to be the leader, even though he was not the oldest son. Hilkiah was Hosa's second son, Tabaliah his third, Zechariah his fourth. In all, Hosa had 13 sons and relatives who were gatekeepers. These were the leaders of the groups of the gatekeepers. The gatekeepers had a special way to serve in the Lord's temple, just as their relatives did. Each family was given a gate to guard. Lots were thrown to choose a gate for a family. Young and old were treated the same. Meshelemiah was chosen to guard the east gate. Then lots were thrown for Meshelemiah's son Zechariah. Zechariah was a wise counselor. Zechariah was chosen for the north gate. Obed-Edom was chosen for the south gate, and Obed-Edom's sons were chosen to guard the house where the valuable things were kept. Shupim and Hosa were chosen for the west gate, and Sheliketh gate on the upper road. Guards stood side by side. 6 Levites stood guard every day at the east gate. 4 Levites stood guard every day at the north gate. 4 Levites stood guard at the south gate, and 2 Levites guarded the house where the valuable things were kept. There were 4 guards at the western court, and 2 guards on the road to the court. These were the groups of the gatekeepers from the families of Korah and Merari, the treasurers and the other officials. Ahijah was from the tribe of Levi. Ahijah was responsible for taking care of the valuable things in God's temple. Ahijah also was responsible for the places where the holy things were kept. Ladan was from Gershon's family. Jehieli was the leaders of the tribe of Ladan. Jehieli's sons were Zetham and Zethim's brother Joel. They were responsible for the valuable things in the Lord's temple. Other leaders were chosen for the tribes of Amram, Ishar, Hebron, and Uzziel. Shubael was the leader responsible for the valuable things kept in the temple. Shubael was Gershom's son. Gershom was Moses' son. These were Shubael's relatives. His relatives from Eliezer were Rehabiah, Eliezer's son, Jeshiah, Rehabiah's son, Joram, Jeshiah's son, Zikri, Joram's son, and Shelomith, Zichri's son. Shelomith and his relatives were responsible for everything that David had collected for the temple. The officers of the army also gave things for the temple. They gave some of the things taken in wars. They gave things to be used for the Lord's temple. Shelomith and his relatives took care of all the things that people gave to be used for the temple. This included the things given by Samuel, the seer, Saul, son of Kish, Abner, son of Ner, and Joab, son of Zeruiah. Kenaniah was from the Izhar family. Kenaniah and his sons had work outside the temple. They worked as court officers and judges in different places in Israel. Hashabiah was from the Hebron family. Hashabiah and his relatives were responsible for all the Lord's work and for the king's business in Israel, west of the Jordan River. There were 1,700 powerful men in Hashabiah's group. The family history of a Hebron family shows that Jeriah was their leader. When David had been king for 40 years, he ordered his people to search through the family histories for strong and skilled men. Some of them were found among the Hebron family, living in the town of Jazer in Gilead. Jeriah had 2,700 relatives who were powerful men and leaders of families. King David gave these 2,700 relatives the responsibility of leading the tribes of Reuben, Gad, and half of Manasseh in taking care of God's work and the king's business.